All right, welcome in another episode of Off-Season Grades, brought to you by BetMGM. I'm Jeff Goodman here with Matt McCall, and it is time to talk about the Alabama Crimson Tide and Nate Oates, one of the best coaches in America, a guy who has taken that program to a completely different level over the last few years. Every year now, we got him top 10-ish, top 50, whatever it is. They're in the mix with all the top programs in America, and that's been a long time since we've been able to say that. All right, this Alabama team is going to look very, very, very different, though. Mark Sears finally gone. He's been a cornerstone of this program for the last few years, helping them go to the Final Four a couple years ago. The good news for Alabama, their perimeter is going to be
hmm
really good again. But it's going to look a little bit different. At the 11th hour, I think Alabama's season completely changed when LeBaron Fallon called Nate Oates and he said, "You know what, coach? I'm coming back.
Back.
I'm coming back." And most people had just assumed Fallon was gone to the NBA, even though he was probably a second rounder. Um, and that took them from, to me, a top 25-ish team that I had a lot of questions about to a team that now might have as good a perimeter group as anybody in the country because you have obviously you got Latrell Wrightsell coming back from that injury. I don't
hmm
know if he'll be back for game one, but whatever. Even if he's not, they've got enough firepower in the backcourt. Aiden Holloway's back. Obviously, you bring in Jaleel Bethea, who's a top 25 kid coming out of high school, goes to Miami as a freshman. It was a complete mess down in Miami. Obviously, we know what happened down there with their coach retiring in the middle of the year. So Bethea's got talent, but he's still got a long way to go. And then Houston Millette, a kid that I think is going to be a big time surprise this season now that he's healthy. Front court, a little bit more questions. What do you make of this Alabama roster looking at it right now?
Yeah, and you just mentioned the front court. Noah Williamson, Bucknell, Patriot League Player of the Year. None of these transfers that Nate Oates brought in, you're sitting like, wow, like the wow factor. Taylor Bowen, good player. But you mentioned Miami, Florida State. Obviously had some issues the last couple of years. So, there are some question marks, and none of them, jump out at you. But retention, we keep saying it. We know Sears is gone, but they also got some really good players to come back. We'll see where Latrell, right? So he is off that injury. Aiden Holloway was a big one, and Phylon obviously returning and not staying in the NBA draft. Nate Oates has won over 25 games the last 3 seasons. Now, Sears was a big part of that, right? He's averaging 18 points per game. But what makes his team so good is the unselfishness. When you have five guys averaging double figures, people don't understand that's not an easy thing to do, especially in a day and age in college athletics where it's me, I. How much can I get? How much can I get? How much can I get? You put an offense out there that has five guys averaging double figures, that means the ball is hopping around. The ball is not sticking. And that's what makes his offenses so good. So definitely some question marks because, again, some of these transfers that they took, none of them are jumping out at you in terms of like, this guy is wow, watch out. Noah Williamson, Patriot League Player of the Year, probably the biggest accolade of any of these transfers that are coming in. And then they took some freshmen. They took some talented freshmen that we'll see. How do these guys develop? I don't understand what the Wisconsin connection is there. They've got two players. They got the number one player coming out of Wisconsin and Davion Hanna, and they got the number two player coming out of Wisconsin and Amari Allen. Two four-star recruits, London Jemison, another four-star player. So we'll see, can those guys develop early? Because I think they're going to need some of them to take a step forward and play some rotational minutes, especially early on in the season.
Well, Nate Oates and Preston Murphy, both Midwest guys, so I assume there's got to be a Wisconsin connection there. But they do bring back five of their top 8 or 9 guys, right? I mean, you
Rotation.
lose Sears, you obviously lose Jaron Stevenson. He goes back home to Carolina. Darian Reed, I think that's a significant loss, and I think Mohamed Diabate is the biggest loss of anybody other than Mark Sears because he was just that junkyard dog, 4 man. He could play some five, tough, rebound, defend, all of that. That's an area that I worry about. And, again, like you said, I like Taylor Bowen, and I think he fits. He fits Alabama, but comes from a program that lost a lot of games last year. Um, we talked about Bethea, comes from a program that lost a lot of games last year. So we'll see how those guys kind of develop. But again, Filan's going to get the ball in his hands a good amount. We know that, right? Aiden Holloway. After that, I actually think guys are going to be fighting for time on the perimeter. I think Filan's the one guy you can say, like, okay, I feel good about he's going to play a ton. After that, it's not like Aiden Holloway is going to be guaranteed 30 minutes a game right now. Again, like I told you, Houston Millette is a terrific shooter, and he was hurt last year, redshirt, right? I think he redshirted. He played maybe a game or two. I don't even know how many games he played, but obviously he was stuck behind a bunch of guys. But I think, is the one who's got to figure it out. Because again, the talent is there, the upside is there, all of it. He looks the part. But I always say, coming out of AU ball, he's an AU player. That's what he is. And I don't think any of that, I don't think he took any steps forward last year. Maybe not even his fault. Just the situation that he was in with Jim Larinaga and the coaching change in the middle of the year. So I think their perimeter is going to be terrific. Terrific. You've got shooters. The way they want to play, they play fast so they can rotate. They can get all those guys some time. It's the front court to me that scares me because I don't know if you've got enough weapons. So I think if you're telling me, like, let's go through X factor and I'll start there. The X factor for me is defense, as it generally is with Alabama, right? Like, they don't have rim protection, number one. Aiden Sherrill is big. He's talented. He's got to get in better shape. I think you're probably looking at Williamson and Sherrill splitting 40 minutes at the five. That would be my guess. And neither are a rim protector, neither are great athletes. That's why they need Taylor Bowen, is because he's a four-man who, can run the court, an athlete. He fits what Alabama wants. I don't love the lack of rim protection. So I think that would be my X factor is the rim protection, the defense. How good is it going to be? Or is it going to be more of kind of what it looked like a couple of years ago where they were not great defensively?
Yeah, I mean the X factor for me is the front court. Yeah. Who is stepping up in that front court because we didn't even mention the front court players that they lost. They lose Big Cliff.
Yeah.
They lose Grant Nelson.
Yeah.
Like Mark Sears is a loss. Those two guys are big losses as well because you look at what they did last season in the transfer portal, getting Big Cliff to anchor that defense, to be able to protect the rim, to be able to guard pick and rolls and move his feet. I think the X factor is the front court. They bring in the freshman out of your neck of the woods, the Newman School in Massachusetts, Collins Onyeka. I hope I pronounced that last name right.
He might have to play.
Is he a guy that can step up? So, Noah Williamson, this is a different league. This is the best league in the country. 1A, 1B, whatever you want to call it. This is the best league in the country. And this is not the Patriot League. And that's not to knock the Patriot League. The Patriot League plays some good basketball. I'm a big fan of the Patriot League. But it's the SEC. Is he ready for every single night, 18 games against the athleticism that is this league? Be interesting to see. So I think the front court's the biggest X factor for me.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today.
Could he be a poor man's Danny Wolf? Noah Williamson.
Oof.
Poor
That's
man's.
a big house. You're just talking about a guy that got drafted.
I'm not saying he's going to be Danny Wolf.
Play a lot of games.
I'm not saying he's going to be Danny Wolf. But again, Danny Wolf played 30 minutes and was a focal point. I'm saying, can this kid play 18 minutes and you're going to give Sherrill 22 minutes Sherelle's got to stay healthy and be consistent. But you're right. Like it's the front court, it's the rim protection, it's the defense. But what I'll say is when Nate can roll out five guards
Well, and don't worry about the offense.
and play four of them now again, they may struggle early. Here's why. Reitzel's coming off the injury. He's not going to be 100% early. But it's going to take some time, right? So while they do have a lot back, Reitzel didn't play that much last year coming off the injury, and Filan's still got to he's got to be a leader. Like that was the one thing that I think held Alabama back a little bit last year was like Mark Sears never developed into a leader, right? That wasn't what he was. That wasn't what his DNA was about. Can Filan do some of that? Can he step up and be a leader, a vocal guy, somebody that some of these other guys can kind of look to, because I think that would maybe make up for some of the other deficiencies and also make life easier, Filan, for somebody like Taylor Bowen, for whether it is Williamson, who's super skilled, get him the ball in the right spot. So there's a lot on Filan too. We talked about the front court and and the rim protection, but Filan could be your X factor as well for sure. What are your expectations? What is your prediction for this Alabama team this year?
My expectations are they're going to be like they have been the last 3 years, one of the best offenses in the SEC.
Yeah.
Because that's how good of a coach he is, especially on that side of the ball. I don't think they take, with the guard play, even though Sears is gone, I don't think they take a step back on the offensive end of the floor at all. I think they're a top 6, we'll call it, top 5 on paper SEC team, which means they could ultimately end up winning the SEC regular season championship. Nothing would surprise me, especially with Nate Oates over there, calling the ball plays. So on paper, an NCAA tournament team that if they're shooting it well and they're making threes, which they do a lot of times, they can get to the Sweet 16. I think they have that level of talent, just that X factor of who is anchoring the defense in the front court, who are setting those pick and rolls and rolling to the basket and being able to catch lobs and keep the floor spaced. The front court is the biggest question mark. But I've got to think that on paper, a top 6, top 5 SEC team that if they're making threes in the second round of the NCAA tournament, they're going to get to the Sweet 16.
All right, let's take away Nate Oates' first season at Alabama. We'll throw it away because I think he inherited, not a great situation left by Avery Johnson at Alabama. So we'll take away that one. Last 5 years, okay, in the league. First, tied for 5th. First, tied for 2nd, 3rd. They've gone also to Sweet 16. They got knocked out in the first round. Sweet 16, Final Four, Elite 8. So, yes, I think it's safe to say second weekend for sure, with a chance to go to a Final Four again with this group. Again, what do you win with guards? He's got no shortage of really good guards, shooters. I wish he had one more front court guy. Absolutely. But I think realistic expectations are you're going to be top 3 in the SEC. You're going to be in the top 15 all year nationally, and you're going to be in the second weekend and have a chance to advance. Like that's a gimme. That's a layup for me for a Nate Oates team. All right, your grade for Nate Oates. Now let me put a caveat out there with this Alabama team. They don't have the money, believe it or not, of some of these other teams this year. They're not in the double figure 10 million plus club in terms of what they put together. Although Filan might have got them close at the very end. My guess is somewhere in the 9 million range. And again, that's just an educated guess. So they got money, just not like FU money like Kentucky does.
Yeah, I mean, look, like we've talked about before with Bruce Pearl, Nate Oates coming back, not going to Indiana, and his name was being floated around, rightfully so. A Midwestern guy who just wins 26, 27, 25 games every single year. Get your coach back. Everyone wants to talk about Alabama, SEC, football school. Well, until they make the college football playoff without Nick Saban, Nate Oates, you could put there as the best coach on campus. Okay, so let's start there. And for him to stay within that environment, speaks to how he feels about the University of Alabama and what he's created there. LeBaron Filan coming back, huge, last hour. So I think you've got to give this group a solid B plus. To your point, I think they could inch their way into that third, second spot in the SEC because of who their coach is and the talent that they have, and they're going to be one of the best offenses, if not the best offense in the best league in the country.
What do you give him, a B plus?
B plus.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of agreeing with you, McCall. I don't like that. But I'm gonna give him the same grade. I'm gonna give him a B plus as well. I think getting Filan back was a difference, really, and that takes you from like a B minus to a B plus. That's the difference. And again, it came right down to the final day of withdrawing from the draft. I would have loved to have seen one more front court guy, one more guy that was a little more proven for me, because again, now you got three guys that are all kind of question marks for me in their roles up front, right? Aiden Sherrill hasn't done it. Noah Williamson obviously did it at a low level, and Taylor Bowen was a highly recruited kid coming out of high school, but again, did it at Florida State. So all their new guys, including Jaleel Bethea, are kind of like, we don't know. We don't know how they're going to be. So I'm going to give them a B plus as well. They were able to retain some guys, which helps. Aiden Holloway and Reitzel coming back. And the one that I really would have loved to have seen them keep is Darian Reed, who went to Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. That's the one. That's the one that, like, to me, I was fighting between a B and a B plus because of that one. I think having him back would have been a significant, because I think he's going to have a hell of a year going from a freshman to a sophomore. I think he's an NBA player. But again, Nate Oates reloads again. They're in the discussion every year now. Like, that's the crazy part right now. We're talking about Alabama every single year as having a chance to be in the discussion for an SEC title. And
Final Four.
Yes.
Every single year. Like I said, until Kalen DeBoer gets into the college football playoff, Nate Oates is the sheriff on that campus. Okay, he's the guy, and for him to stay there, I think it speaks volumes. One, of him. Look, I know he's being paid well. Okay, I get it, but when Alabama basketball is not a blue blood, and when the blue bloods are poking around, and he decides to stay, I think that speaks to his character. I think it speaks to his love for the school. I think it speaks to who he is as a family guy, to keep his family in one place and not continue to move them around. I mean, as long as he's over there, this team is always going to have a chance because they're electric on the offensive end of the floor.
And he's got an AD in Greg Byrne who will give him pretty much everything he needs. I know, again, I said it earlier that, like, they didn't have the money of some other schools. And it's hard in SEC country. It's obviously hard if you're not Kentucky or Arkansas. It's hard to raise that money. Obviously, still, it's about football. But, Greg Byrne and Nate Oates, I mean, look at when Byrne hired Nate Oates, incredible hire. And for Nate to be able to do it down there is unbelievable. I don't know how long he'll be there from a standpoint that the NBA is going to, I think they've already started poking around a little bit. But if he can get back to another Final Four, because he's such an NBA-focused coach, right? How they play, especially offensively, how they spread the court. They're not having two bigs that are necessarily clogging the lane. He's hiring NBA guys left and right. I think that helps. He's putting guys now
in head jobs. Head jobs. I mean,
Ryan Pannone,
Ryan Pannone, a head coach. Ryan Hodgson, the job he did at Arkansas State, now down at South Florida.
Yes.
Taking over for Amir Abdul-Rahim. May he rest in peace. So, I mean, it's, the staff turnover is a little uneasy at times, but when you have a culture that's set, you hire people that you're familiar with, they come in and they just keep it moving. That's the bottom line.
All right, there you have it. B plus from both of us. For Matt McCall, I'm Jeff Goodman. Make sure you watch all the offseason grades. We got tons of them on Field of 68, so make sure you subscribe, check out the YouTube channel, and catch us all summer. Thanks, man.